Hey guys, and welcome. In this video I'm going to show you one of the techniques I use to make deciduous trees for my layout. A while back I did a video on how I make my evergreen trees, but I hadn't done one on my deciduous trees or trees that lose their leaves annually. So I'm not going to try to replicate and make a specific oak tree or cottonwood or something like that, but this is a good technique to make a sort of a generic tree that looks really good, and they're very easy to make. And I'm sure all you guys out there can follow these simple steps and make some outstanding trees for your model train layout. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the materials, and then I'll step you through the process.
So the technique I'm going to share with you today is sort of a modification of Scenic Express's Super Sage tree, which uses their super trees and their Western sagebrush armatures. Okay, on to the materials. You're going to need some type of flock for the leaves. I actually like the Super Leaf, again by Scenic Express. I think that's the best kind, but you can use just regular ground foam if you want. You'll need a brown spray paint, dark brown, light brown, doesn't matter a whole lot. You may want some flat spray as well to kind of finish off the tree. You're going to need some contact cement, a drill, and then some small finishing nails, which are the kinds that don't have a head on them. Then some Scenic cement, or you could use diluted matte medium. And then want some spray glue and some super extra hold hairspray. You are going to need a container that you can sort of fill up with the Scenic cement or matte medium to soak some things in. And then the super tree material itself, which makes up the smaller branches and gives something for your leaves to attach to. And then you're going to need some type of armature for the tree to act as the trunk and the large branches. I use the Western sagebrush. This is the Super Sage armatures from Scenic Express, but you can go out and collect these yourself or make them yourself with twisted wire. But I really like these because it's got a nice natural bark look to the trunk. And then you also need some foam to kind of stick your trees in while they're drying. So the first step in this method is to pair the individual little super tree parts. This is what ends up making up the small fine branches and gives something for the leaves to attach to. Sometimes in here there's sort of larger pieces of leaf, and if there's any of those you want to pull them off so you only have the small fine structure to the super trees. And from there you're actually going to want to prepare either a mixture of diluted matte medium, or you can just use Scenic cement on this. And now what you're going to want to do is actually put the individual little pieces of the super tree material down into the Scenic cement and soak it for a couple minutes. Then you just kind of shake off the excess in there, and then you'll set this aside to dry. And what I do is I actually hang them from clothespins. Okay, so you're going to want to let those dry overnight, but while you're doing that, you can go ahead and get your trunk all set. Go ahead and drill a small hole in the bottom of the trunk, and then put some of the contact cement on your finishing nails and put those up in the trunk, and then set those aside to dry overnight as well. Then you'll need both the armatures and your super tree material completely dry before you move on to the next step. And that next step is actually going to be gluing the super tree material to the armatures. So go ahead and coat the top portion of your armature with a real thick coating of the spray glue, and you're going to want to do this into some type of confined area, but make sure that you're wearing a respirator or doing this outside, because you really want to keep all that glue confined, and you don't want it getting it on things that will mess them up. And then from here it's pretty simple. You just pull off a small or medium-sized pieces of the super tree material and then push them into the tree armature, and I try and attach them sort of on the outside of the tree more so than the center, because this allows the tree to have some depth to it and look more natural. And there's no real science to how you do this. You just go ahead and put them on where you think they look good, and once you're done, you'll end up with a tree that looks something like this. You can see there a little bit how I get the center of the tree a little bit open. And then just to show you one more time how straightforward this process is. There was the armature that I started off with the glue on it, and then you just go ahead and stick some of the super tree material on, and this is what your tree looks like after that step. Okay, so now let's head outside and paint the top of our tree. What you're going to want to do is paint just the super tree material that you've attached to the armature. You want to make sure you try and preserve that nice western sagebrush look, because that'll give your tree a nice look of actual bark and really help it stand out. But just go ahead and coat this to try and get it all even, get any of the glue covered up or anything that's sort of discolored or an odd color, and make it nice and even. So with that, we'll do it one more time just to show you. Pretty straightforward. Just paint the top of the tree brown. And so here's what this tree looks like. Now, if you're doing a winter scene or a fall scene where the trees have already lost their leaves, the trees are ready to go now. So you would just stop there before adding any leaf material to it, although if it's a winter scene, you may want to add some snow. But this, even still without the leaf material, gives you a really nice looking tree for your model railroads. But I'm not doing that. I am modeling the summer, I think most people do. And so I'm going to go ahead and add leaves to my tree. And so now this is where the hairspray comes in. I use the hairspray for this step instead of the spray glue, although the spray glue will work. It doesn't go on completely clear. It is a little bit white. And the hairspray goes on clear, although it does leave a little bit of a sheen to it. And so then one of the things you want to do with this is before you sprinkle your ground foam or your leaf material on there, make sure you're doing it over a clean paper sack, or in this case I'm using an old trash can that I've dedicated to my tree making, and lightly sprinkle the leaves onto the tree. You want these to sort of try and stick each individual leaf to the tree. You don't want to have big clumps of them attached. And so once that's done, you'll end up with a tree that looks something like this. And this is one of those areas where I found less is actually more. By actually putting a little bit fewer leaves on the tree, I think the tree actually looks a little bit better than if you completely saturated it with your ground foam or your leaf material and completely coated it, because you want it to have a little bit of that see-through look. And then if there is any little bit of a shine or anything left from the hairspray on your tree, you can go ahead and just coat it with that clear flat varnish, and that will flatten it all out and make it look good. And so here you can see our 5 trees that I finished up. Each one of these only takes about 5 minutes each, not counting the drying time, and they give you a real good natural look for your trees. Okay, and that's it, guys. Like I said, this is a super easy and quick technique, and it produces great results. You can really get some fantastic looking trees out of this process. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Make sure you keep running your trains, keep enjoying them, and we'll catch you at the next video.